on my mom's side, they there was the old Tempe Bridge, and they set up at a camp where everybody was showing up that was going to work for the railroads because they showed up to work for the railroads, and it was the old Tempe Bridge, and that's where the family initially started, right there. It was just a shanty town that they built, walking distance from the restaurant, because that was the area where everybody was showing up at the time.
Yeah, it was at the end of Mill Avenue there, Salt Creek.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, we're live.
It shows that we're live?
Yeah.
Well, we're live.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're live. Well, great. Outstanding. All right, guys. Well, listen, before we go live, let me give a warm welcome to everybody. I didn't get a chance to play our video, but everybody has seen it before. VP760, saludos everyone from Brawley, California. Big Roger Demshock, man. San Diego Sheriff legend. And we got our sister from Riverside, Ceci Escano. Saludos, everyone. I got my ice cold water with lime ready. Lista. We got Tim Leja, hola, from Glendale, Arizona. Over there by you, Bobby. Drinking grape Kool-Aid. Órale, está bien. And check this out, Andy. We got Jim DeJanis. The guy's a legend with the California Department of Corrections. He opened up Pelican Bay. I believe he did 24 years in Pelican Bay. Now he lives in Thailand. So he's watching us right now live in Thailand, which I believe it's 12-hour difference. So it's like, I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning over there right now, or 7. Thank you, brother. We got don't drink and drive, drink, don't drink and get online. Salutations from Lemon Grove. Hey, thank you, brother. We saw you last night. And Grant, love this channel. Bobby, thank you. We got San Diego PD legend, Christopher Kilby, man. Chris, I know you're going to love today's episode. San Diego PD legend. We got Phoenix PD legend, the man who holds probably the record of most undercover buys for Phoenix PD. He probably has one more than you, Bobby. And that's Ayala. He probably has a lot more than you.
A lot more than me. Yeah.
Oh, hey, brother, we got Andy Cota. We got your homeboy. Andy, we got Andy Cota watching us. Big Juarez watching us. Thank you, brother. Seaback, I mailed your book today. You should be getting your book. Thank you, brother. JCool2289. Greetings from Chula Vista. Orale, JJ. Thank you for watching, J Cool. And you're going to see Bobby Hernandez. He's going to come on tonight. He gave me his word. He wants to watch you. Send my regards to Andy. He's watching it now. Guys, man, I'm excited. We had some problems logging on, but thank God we're logged on. But guys, with that said, let's start off. Bobby, we'll start off with you. What are you drinking, brother? You're the one. You're not like me. I got a fake cigar because my wife doesn't let me smoke inside the house. I'm a mandilon, and you're not. What are you drinking, and what are you smoking?
My go-to tequila. I'm out of the arete, so I'm drinking the Lalo right here.
Okay.
Here we go. It's a nice, healthy pour right there. That's a good one. And just to get me through the show. And Aroma Craft cigar. It's a Robusto. It's a nice, good Nicaraguan smoke. Aroma Craft. It's a Cro Magnum, and it's a good smoke. It's the last one in my box. So.
And how does it taste with a tequila?
Good. I prefer it with. I always have my coffee too. Got my coffee here. My black coffee. I like smoking cigars with black coffee, and it's a spicy smoke. Little on the heavier side, but I just ate, so I'm ready to go.
Perfect. Big Doug, you're always coming in with $300 bottles, brother. Tell us what you're drinking and tell us what it tastes like.
Okay, this is a local one. This is S.E. Callahan's. It's a Tennessee whiskey. This is the Distiller Select. It's bottle 31 from batch 31. But it's really nice. It's got kind of a smoky oak flavor to it, with kind of a light vanilla and honey. It's really good, and it's actually distilled in the oldest city here in Tennessee, Jonesboro, Tennessee. So it's a little bit east of us here, where Kim and I are at. But it's really good.
And what is it? What's the name of it, Doug?
It's called S.E. Callahan's.
All right. I'll be looking out for it over here. See if they sell it over here. Or is it just a Tennessee type of whiskey?
It's a Tennessee, but you can find it. You can find it out, but it's distilled here in Tennessee. Right. Yeah.
I'll write it down.
Yep.
And Big Andy, man, the legend, Andy, the hero. We'll talk a lot about you, but dude, you're smoking a cigar, man, and I admire that. Tell us what cigar you're smoking, and tell us what you're drinking, and tell us what it tastes like, if you don't mind, brother.
I'm drinking Jameson.
Okay.
On the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm smoking a Romeo and Julieta. Let me see if I can see this thing. I'm getting too damn old here, man. Here we go. I'm Reserva Real, Romeo and Julieta.
Okay, is it a strong cigar?
What's that?
Is it strong? A strong cigar? Most Romeo and Juliets are pretty strong.
Medium to bold.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Oh yeah, great cigar, man. I love Romeo and Juliets. They're great cigars. Hey, don't drink it. Don't drink and drive. Don't drink and get online. I love whiskey. It gives me a headache. You know what? Instead of, well, it depends what whiskey. I highly recommend Scotch. You'll never get a headache with Scotch. And Andy, I went today to my local, the ABC liquor store over here, and I bought this in your honor, brother. The Delmore Sherry Cask Scotch, 12 years. This stuff is dynamite. And you know what? I only got it for $89. This is usually $112, $120 bottle. You know what, man? This stuff is delicious. I highly recommend it. That sherry taste. And I'm telling you, I'm drinking it like you. This you cannot put ice on this. This one right here, brother, you got to just take it. Oh, delicious. I mean, it goes down smooth. And I know that Scotch, it's an acquired taste, but it goes down smooth.
Yes.
Delicious. Hey, Bobby, you have a shout out today, Bobby?
No, I don't have any. None at all. Normally I have a shout out. Don't have any. I want to thank everyone for joining us. And I'm really looking forward to this show. All of us heard of the Norco shooting. So when I was in the academy in 81, we had a section just on the shooting.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah, it's going to be an outstanding show. And Big Doug, I know you had a shout out.
Yeah, I got a shout out to my wife, Kim. We just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary, and I want to let her know I love her very much. And then
Here we go.
Thank you for putting up with me and all my shenanigans for 40 years.
That's right, brother. Yeah, 40 years?
40 years, yep.
40 years. Well, and then her birthday was like 2 weeks ago too, right?
Yes, we married young. We were very young.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. But guys, hey, Bobby, I second you. I think you just went off. You'll come right back on. I second what you said, Bobby. Today's show is going to be outstanding. And with further ado, let me just give a quick introduction. To me, it really is. I've known Andy, I think probably the past 7-8 years. And I'll tell you, the guy, when we, in our show, Andy, the reason why we started this show was, or this podcast, was to bring back legends. Bring back people that were heroes, whether they're cops, community members, but the majority of the people we bring back were gunslingers, were police officers, were military, and so forth. And we have them share their stories, their legendary stories. Because, Andy, we don't want your stories ever to be forgotten. We want 20, 30 years from now for your grandchildren to see this show, and they will never forget the great things that you did. And that's why the reason why I mentioned this is because it was created for men like you, men that were involved. And you're going to tell your story right now. I mean, in legend, I mean, your stories, your life stories. But there's one incident that, I got a chance to read the book, and you and I have talked about it many of times. I mean, this story, I'm telling you, it made you a legend and a hero, and everybody that was involved and those that passed. But I'm going to say your give real brief so people can hear what your life story. From 1970 to 73, you were a U.S. Marine. You were a Marine. From 1973 to 1974, you were hired with the California Department of Corrections. You worked at Chino State Prison. And 1974, you went with the Riverside Sheriff's Office, and you left it in 1982. You went back to school, 1984. You worked for the San Diego County Public Defender's Office, and that's a story within itself. The murder cases that you worked there, 1986 to 2002, you worked for the San Diego county probation department, and then from there you were still a private investigator. You worked. You were a professor at Southwestern College. There's so many things that you did throughout your life. But Andy, without further ado, Bobby will ask you the first questions, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, brother. We're honored to have you with us.
Well, indeed, and honored to have you on our show, Andy. A little bit. Tell us about your career, your law enforcement career.
You know
How
what?
did it start?
I give him a second. I think he just logged off. He's in his garage. That's why he's smoking his cigar. And I think he's having a little bit of problems with his internet.
Signal.
Yes.
Okay.
Bobby?
Well, until he comes on, we could this show or the incident, the Norco incident.
Yes.
I mean, I'm old enough that I started the academy in September of '81, and in September '81, they gave us a section on this whole deal. And it still took us, it took us quite a few years to finally get to the semi-automatics and eventually to the rifles. I mean, we didn't get to the semi-automatics till I was in narcotics in probably 86 or about 87. I think we switched over to semi-autos. So you would have thought we'd have done it sooner because we were starting to see a trend nationwide of criminals using, high-powered rifles, semi-automatic handguns. And we were totally outgunned at that time. But okay, he's back.
Okay. Go ahead, Bobby.
All right. Hey, just to start off, is talk to us. How did you go into law enforcement? First of all, thank you for your service. You went into the Marine Corps. I'm a proud father of a combat veteran Marine from Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah. So after you left your military service, tell us about your law enforcement career. What is it? What made you decide to go into law enforcement, and where did you go?
Well, I never thought I was going to be able to be in law enforcement because I'm 5'4". Okay. Mm-hmm. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, there was a height requirement across the country. And I think the shortest guys that were being allowed were 5'6". It had gradually over the years had been coming down. For example, Riverside County Sheriff, who I eventually went to work for, when they had a height requirement, and they did it, I was the first guy that they hired after they got rid of their height requirement, was 5'10".
Wow.
Okay? Everybody was big, all right? Everybody was real big. And if you were 5'10", you were short. So everybody was big. And I just never thought I was going to get to do that. So I got out of the Marine Corps, and I always wanted to be a teacher and a coach. And I kind of discounted the police thing. But it's something I really wanted to do because from the time I was about 11 and a half, I met an El Monte policeman, Southern California. His name was Darrell Creed, and he took me to live with him when I was 12 years old. And I lived with him for 5 years till I graduated from high school. He retired as a lieutenant Los Angeles Sheriff. After 2 years with El Monte, he lateraled over to the LASO. And the guy was 6'4", linebacker big from Kansas. Okay. And he was the real deal and very much the role model. And I wanted to be like him, but it just didn't seem like it was going to happen. And then I got out of the Marine Corps in June of 1973. And within a month, I found out that California Department of Corrections did not have a height requirement, and I applied with them. I thought, okay, this is great. They offered me a job. They sent me a job offer, a letter, and in August, and it says, we want you to come to work. It was sometime in August, I don't remember. So I called them up and said, hey, don't you have to be 21? Because I was 20 when I got out of the Marine Corps. Went in when I was 17, got out when I was 20. And they said, yeah, aren't you 21? And I said, no. I says, I won't be 21 till October the 30th. And they said, well, we got a guy retire on November the 4th. You want to come to work November the 4th? I said, sure. So I was on hold, all summer, et cetera. And then I went to work promptly November 4th, went to the academy right away at Modesto. It was only a 2-week academy back in those days. Came back, went to work at Chino, CIM, and I was in training the whole time. 3 months Program A on the minimum side, 3 months Program D, the medium side, 3 months in RGC, most of which was in Palm Hall, and then I went back over went back to Program D, and then I opened up with a guy named Art Ayala, sergeant.
A legend.
And,
Yes.
I was selected for some reason to go over and be the crew that opened up this new institution facility within Chino. It was a White Elephant. That's where they sent the 90-day wonders, the 90-day diagnostics that were sent from different counties to see if they were should go to prison or go back to the county they came from and be put on probation. So we opened that up, and I was there for 3 months. And then I got hired by the Riverside County Sheriff. But again, I didn't think I was going to get to do that. But while I was with Chino, all of a sudden, all these police agencies were announcing that they had done away with their height requirement.
Nice.
So about 4 months prior to going to work for Riverside SO, I applied. I looked around and I applied for Riverside Sheriff, Pasadena Police, and Glendale Police. They're in Los Angeles County. And I was offered a job. First guy that offered me a job was Riverside. And then right after that, I accepted, Glendale offered me a job, but I was already committed to Riverside County Sheriff. And that's how I ended up getting in there.
Nice.
Good. Okay. Were you going to say something, Doug?
No, I was just complimenting him on his.
Okay. So from there, let's jump ahead now we're always pressed for time with the 45-minute hour time that we give. Let's jump ahead to your career. What kind of experience did you do what assignments did you work with the PD before the famous Norco incident? Or what assignment were you working during the Norco incident?
Well, my first assignment was the Blythe Sheriff Station,
Okay.
Colorado River, on the Colorado River, Arizona, California border there in Blythe. And 14 months county jail, worked in the jail there. Then I went on patrol for the next 22 months. And then I transferred to the Lake Elsinore Sheriff Station. And I did about 2.5, almost 3 years, Lake Elsinore Sheriff. And then I transferred patrol. And then I transferred to Riverside, where I was living. Went to Riverside Station Patrol. And I was working there. I was only there about 6 months. Worked patrol. And they used to, in all the different stations, they would take us. And Riverside was kind of a different thing where, unless you're working at Riverside or Indio, unless it was a really big caper like a murder or really all sex offenses are awful, but like a horrible rape case or something, they'd roll the detectives out of Riverside or out of Indio. But when you're working at Blythe or Elsinore, even then, we pretty much did our own detective work there as patrol guys. We were cross-trained,
right?
And did a lot of that. Learned all our ID work, photography, crime scene, preservation, collection of evidence, all that stuff.
So
go to Riverside.
So did you? So were you assigned to Norco as a patrol deputy, or were you an investigator at that time?
No, I was still a patrol guy. I was on Riverside at 6 months, and I was assigned to Norco almost the entire time because at Elsinore they trained me as a traffic officer.
Okay.
And we did traffic accident investigation, and we didn't have that at Blythe. I got there. Elsinore was a contract city. But nobody seemed like wanted traffic.
Yeah.
They want to work criminal cars, which is fine. But the cool thing about working traffic, and as soon as they said, "Hey, you want to work traffic," and I knew what that was about, I said, "Sure, I'll do it." They sent me to traffic accident investigator school. Came back, and I was one of the guys that handled crashes. But I did it in the contract city of Elsinore, which means I wasn't stuck out in the county somewhere.
Right.
Real slow. All the most of the bad guys that we had in our station were in Elsinore. So I took few radio calls, so I could stop cars, I could shake pedestrians, I could do all that stuff, and I made a lot of arrests, and it was a lot of fun, going after bad guys because I had more time to do it. Crash would come up. I'd go handle the crash, go somewhere, report, and I was back 10-8 looking for the bad guys.
So when you were in Norco, at that time, this is like in 1980. So did Norco have its own substation, or was it out of the Harupa Valley Station?
We're out of it was called the Harupa Station.
Yeah.
But we were out of downtown Riverside. Okay.
Okay.
Our station was at the courthouse.
How many
Riverside?
How many deputies were assigned to the Norco area?
At any given time, usually 3.
Okay.
Two, like I work day shift.
Right.
So there'd be 2 of us, and then we'd have a cover car that would come on at 3. We work 10-hour shifts. He'd come in, and by 4, we were rolling in back to the station to get off at 5. Okay. But that cover car would be there. He'd be there from 3 to 10 hours. What is that? 1 o'clock in the morning or something.
And back then, Norco was pretty rural area, wasn't it? It wasn't as built up as it is today.
Not necessarily. It was a bedroom community of Orange County for the most part. We got a problem here. People think that because all the homes, for the most part, most homes in Norco, there was a new side and an older side.
Right.
The east side, I think it was the older side of town. West side was the newer side. They all had horse property. They all had corrals in their backyard. Every street in Norco had a horse trail on it. So, and I think it's called Horsetown, USA, or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's where people think that it was a rural cowboy town. But we had Hamner going right through the middle of that place, and it's like a freeway with stoplights. We had San Bernardino County up to our north side. South side was Corona, and then going south, further south, then you hit Elsinore and then Temecula, et cetera.
Right.
So I was assigned there because I was a certified traffic officer. We did it all down there. All of us were traffic guys, and we took calls for service as well. And it was regular day shift police work every day. We have bad guys come through on Hamner Avenue as far as that goes. Kind of hard to get away if you did a robbery in Riverside and you headed south through Corona or whatever, or you headed towards LA. They think or they did something in Norco. Right. Everybody, we had all the arteries covered. So it was a lot of activity because the 60 was just to the north of us. I was 63 Pomona Freeway. We had the 91 there in Corona.
Right.
And of course there was Riverside. We had Corona right next door to us. Norco stands for North Corona. Yeah. Okay. And so it was a pretty active station, and we were busy.
So before we talk about the actual incident, can you describe the suspects of this incident for us?
Well, there was 5 of them.
Okay.
And they were dressed. Are you there? I hope you can still hear me.
We can hear you. We could hear you. I put Smith and Harvin's picture up when they were in the military. One was in the military.
Yeah, I see. Smith.
Like that. Yeah,
and that's Christopher Harvin. There was George Smith, Christopher Harvin, his brother Russell Harvin. There was Manuel and Billy Delgado. They were brothers as well. Billy Delgado turned out to be 15 years old. He was the driver of the van. But so you got 2 Latinos, 2 Hispanic guys, 2 white guys. You got average size guys, all of them. And George Smith, who was half, is my understanding, half white, half Asian, I think Japanese. And that's what they were. That's what they looked like. I really didn't get to get a good look at them until we went to court. Because when I saw them, they were all dressed basically in military fatigues, dungarees, whatever you want to call it. They weren't camouflage, but they were the green ones like we used to wear in the Marine Corps, the solid ones. And they were all wearing masks. They all had long sleeve jackets on, field jackets. They were wearing these blue dishwashing gloves, is what it looked like to me. And they had ski masks, all the way up to here, and they had the hoods. And I said it several times. I remember one time I made a presentation at Los Angeles County Sheriff's Academy, and I got kind of a big rise out of the group. I said they looked like Arab terrorists to me. At that time, in 1980, that was during the time that the Iranian hostage crisis was going on there in the early 80s. A lot of terrorist stuff had been going on all over the world for many years. And it seemed like that's how they were always dressed from what I would see on the news. And so that's how I describe it.
Can you describe what you were doing at the time the call came out, and then describe the incident for us?
Sure. I was that morning. I was promoted to detective. Detective investigator, two striper, is a promotion to Riverside County Sheriff's Department. It's not an assignment. And I got called in right after briefing in the morning, and told to go to the sheriff's office. He wanted to talk to me. I said, okay. So I stopped in there, and they took me in there and started talking to me. He never said you just got promoted to detective. He just started talking about all things I was going to be doing.
Right.
And I figured out, I guess I'm being promoted. And I was initially going to be assigned to the Sheriff's Academy training. So I was pretty happy. Went out there and got to my beat. And I was a pretty active guy, but I didn't do a whole lot that day. The robbery went down at 3:30 in the afternoon. So I used to stop cars, of course, and made a lot of odd-side arrests when I was working in that city. I didn't do much that day. I was just riding the highway, felt pretty good. And Chuck Hill, who was my beat partner that day, Chuck and I had also worked in Blythe together and patrol. And he caught me on the radio, Channel 3, said, meet me. And we met at 4th and Hammer right at the Carl's Jr. parking lot, which was across the street from the bank, State Pacific Bank, which was the bank that got robbed. And I met him out back in our patrol cars, side by side. He goes, hey, what's wrong with you? Sick or something? I go, no. He says, and we were supposed to tell everybody he got promoted. It was the end of the day. Well, I couldn't help it because he and I kind of had a little rub going. So I got promoted to detective. And he surprised me, actually. I didn't think he felt this way. He said, hey, I think you're a good cop and I think you deserve it. And let me buy you a cup of coffee. Well, I knew that Chuck had a girlfriend down at Winchell's at 2nd and Hamner, which is 2 blocks south of the bank on Hamner. And I said, well, you want to go to Winchell's? And he said, no, let's go to the Donut Corral, which was 2 blocks north at 6th and Hamner. 6th and Sierra, 1 block over from Hamner. 2 blocks up, 1 block east. So we met over there. We were having a cup of coffee under a tree, standing by our patrol cars, kind of reminiscing about our days in Blythe and, what was going to in store for us in the future. So we're shooting the breeze, drinking coffee, and then we got the alert tone, that so we knew something hot was coming over the radio. So we listened, and they said, attention Norco units 211 in progress, or attention Norco units 211 in progress, armed suspects seen entering the bank. It was being called in by the Redlands Savings and Loan, which is kitty corner across the street from the Security Pacific. So we threw our coffee down, jumped in our cars. I went up to Hamner, 1 block to the right. Chuck continued south on Sierra till we got to 4th, and then he made a right on 4th, and I made a left on Hamner, and we came in like so. We went 1097. We got there. Right before I got there, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds after being in my car, I heard Glenn Belasky, who was the cover car. The guy came on at 3. And in 10, 15 seconds max, he's 1097 at the bank. And he goes, 1097, okay. 10 seconds, 15 seconds after that, he's on the radio screaming bloody murder that he's been shot, that he's going to die. Help me, please help me. It scared the hell out of all of us. It scared the hell out of me. So I had my foot in the carburetor, kept on going, and then I couldn't hear him, so I turned off my siren, and I thought maybe one or two guys got the drop on him, robbing the bank, and shot him because he got there so quick.
Right.
But they were still there. They had to be still there. So I figured I'm going to get them, and I'm going to kill them all, whoever was there. And I said, where are they? Where are the suspects? There was a rise right before you get to the bank going down. As I'm coming up that hill, I go, where are they? Where are they, Glenn? And he said, a green van. And I went up to the top of the rise, and I saw the van high center on a curb at the corner. To my left and the north side, the northeast corner. And he said, green van. And then I could hear the gunfire and I could see the suspects. And there's 4 of them out of the van, and they're running around in a circle next to the passenger door. And they were taking turns running to the front of the van and shooting it looked like to me they were shooting at the bank, at somebody at the bank. And as it turned out, Pulaski had pulled in, and as they were coming out, and they lit him up, he put it in reverse, crashed into a car on 4th. They pulled out, he jumped out, he put 4 shotgun blasts on them. Then he put 6 rounds, he emptied his revolver into the back of the van, they crashed at the corner. They got out, and then they continued to shoot at him. And at that point, Pulaski was done.
What kind of weapons did they have, Andy?
They had ARs, 223s. They had an HK, which fired a 308, and they had an HK that fired the 223, the 91, HK 91, HK 93, I believe. One fired a 223, the other one fired a 308. They had a shotgun, and they all had pretty nice handguns, 45s, 9mm. At the end of the day, one of the 45s was laying there on the ground. Anyway, they had pistols and those assault rifles I mentioned. 12.
They also had grenades, correct? Or man-made grenades?
They had handmade explosives that they were using as an RPG, rough pellet grenade. They had beer cans, Coke cans filled with gunpowder, shrapnel, etc., with a fuse attached to a wooden dowel rod that would fit down into a 12 gauge. They had cut out the shot for the 12 gauge rounds, leaving in the I don't know if you left the wadding in there or not, but the cup was still in there. Put the rod in there, and they would fire. They used the shotgun round as the propellant to launch these RPGs. They didn't use any of those at the bank, but they did use them during the case.
So what was the standard issue firearms for the deputies at that time?
Smith & Wesson Model 1038. But we were all allowed to buy our own guns and use them as long as it was a 38 or a 357. Right. But we were only allowed to use county ammo, which was 38 Winchester Western 110 grain half-jack hollow points.
Yeah,
that's what we had as far as ammo. But our weapon was a 12 gauge shotgun and our sidearm.
So how many rounds? So we're talking, these guys have lots of firearms. So how many rounds did you carry in your sidearm, and how many shotgun rounds did you carry normally in patrol?
I had my weapon was 6, and I had 2 speed loaders, 6 each. So I had 18 rounds.
Right.
I had a 12 gauge. They gave us 4 rounds for that.
Right.
And I had, like a week before, I was up at Greenwood's Uniforms in San Bernardino and bought me a leather sleeve that fit on my stock that held 6 shotgun rounds.
Okay.
So I had 10 shotgun rounds.
So you have 18 handgun rounds and 10 shotgun rounds for a firefight with guys that are armed as they were.
right? And they had 30 round magazines taped over and under. They had lots and lots of ammo. I forgot how much they had, but they just bought that.
Okay. So
And
when
they
you arrived,
acquired a lot of them there at that bank.
yeah. So how many? So when you arrived, how long was the engagement you had with these guys?
I engaged the suspects for about 3.5 minutes.
Wow.
And Andy, you could feel the rounds coming at you. Were they hitting your car? Where were you at during that 3.5 minute engagement, which probably felt like an hour? Were you in the back of your car or by the front door, behind the front door?
I was behind my door. What I did when I came over that rise, they didn't hear me come in because I turned off my siren. And Pulaski said the green van. I saw the van. I saw the suspects. They were actively shooting, and the shooting never. Matter of fact, I fired the last round at that scene, but the gunfire never stopped for 3.5 minutes. I saw them, and I cut hard across onto the opposing lane. There was a curb, asphalt curb, in the northbound lane. I pulled all the way over to that. Basically, put my left front wheel against it. I was at an angle. Jumped out of my car. I already had my shotgun in my lap. I bailed out of the car, and I immediately put 4 shotgun rounds on these guys because they were in a big cluster. And boom, 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 boom. And I thought it was over. You know, I didn't see how I could have missed. And one of them turned around and pointed at me. And I knew that meant they're going to start shooting at me. So I went down on the ground, got on the radio, called in multiple suspects. That hadn't been put out yet. I said multiple armed suspects, automatic weapons, because there's so much gunfire. I thought they were they were machine guns, automatics. And put 2 more rounds in my shotgun. I didn't want to take the time to put 4 in it because that's what it held. Because I was concerned they'd come up and shoot me while I was reloading. I felt that I was that close to him. Turns out I was about 40 yards from him. And put in 2 rounds, jumped up, put 2 more rounds on these guys. I couldn't understand why they were not falling, not going down. Back down on the ground, no more radio traffic, a couple more rounds. I had, of my 6 extra rounds that I had, 4 were rifle slugs. And I'd already fired 9 at this point. While I was reloading the first time, I heard Chuck Hill get on the radio and said that he was 1098 with Pulaski, leaving, on his way to Corona Community Hospital. And I thought he was saving Glenn's life. And I thought, well, this is a fight to the death. So I continued to reload.
So you were there by yourself when they left? They left you by themselves? You were by yourself?
I was there
against these guys?
at least 2.5 minutes by myself during the gunfight. And they left. Yeah, I was there. Trying to think about what happened next. So we continued to exchange gunfire. And then all of a sudden, the suspects ran from the van. Turned out there was 4. I actually thought there was like 6 of these guys, okay? But there was 4 outside of the van. And at this point, there was a dead suspect behind the wheel in that van.
Were you the one that killed him? Was one of your slugs that killed him?
It wasn't a slug. It was he took a pellet to the back of the head. It's depends on what you want to read the court transcripts, what the suspects had to say. I killed the suspect. The DA represented that Pulaski killed the suspect. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The suspect's dead.
Yeah.
And but my belief is that I'm the one that killed the suspect. There was a witness, a woman that pulled up after my first, before I started firing. She pulled up just ahead of me and pulled off to the side of the road. So she's parked right in front of me, about halfway between me and the suspect. I don't remember this person or even seeing her. It was a woman. I was told about it. by the detectives. They asked me about it. Of course, they interviewed me. The driver was high center on the curb and was trying to get off of that curb. He was still up when I got there. And then she said that the deputy pulled up. Actually, she got there before me. And then I got out and started shooting, so she got scared and left and drove away, but she came back after it was over. So depends on who you ask, depends on what you want to look at. You know, whoever killed him, somebody killed him. It's killed with a shotgun. There's no ballistics. I don't care to take credit for taking somebody's life, but if I killed him, I killed him. If I didn't, I didn't. But he's dead, and was my concern, of course, to this day. They should all be dead. But they fled into the intersection. They started yanking people out of their cars. And I had one shotgun round left. I hadn't used my sidearm yet. And after Pulaski, just to go back, after Pulaski put out his radio broadcast, he emptied his shotgun, he emptied his handgun. He never engaged suspects again after that. Buck Hill never engaged the suspects. Okay. And he was on fourth while I was on camera. Suspects run into the intersection. They started yanking. The people stopped. They wouldn't go past the limit line because of all that was going on. And they started yanking people out of their cars and jumping in them, jumping out of them. They ended up carjacking a pickup truck right at the intersection, at the limit line, the car and the push car at the intersection. And they all piled into that. And again, one guy ran up the middle of the intersection and continued to shoot at me. The other guy piled in again, then he piled into it, or the truck, and then here they come towards me to escape. We work on camera. And I knew that when they got along, there's two in the back and two in the cab. I knew when they got alongside me, they were going to try to kill me. So I threw my shotgun down and drew my sidearm because I thought my rounds were bad or something because I hadn't dropped anybody. And I had my handgun in my hand, and I slid under the car because I was in the middle of the open. There was no cover with my car. I got under the unit, and I put my head behind the left rear wheel. I figured I had a vest on, but I figured I might survive the shot in the body, but not in the head. And I had my head turned to the left and waiting for them to get up to me. They went about 2 car lengths past me and stopped. And my feeling was, if I saw any feet, I was going to get out and just go toe-to-toe with these guys. So I was going to let them go up and execute me. So they stopped. They really unloaded on me again, and then they took off, stopped shooting. I slid out. I had 1 round left in my shotgun. I grabbed it, picked it up off the ground. I knew it was around in there. And it was a rifle slug, and I fired it at them. And as it turned out, that slug did hit the back of between the 2 suspects in the back of the bed, and between the driver and the passenger. It went right just above right at the very bottom of the rear windshield and out the front windshield. That's what the detectives told me. And then they fled. And then they got to about 2 blocks around 6th and Hammer. And Daryl Hill, that's somebody else. Christ, I'm getting old, man. Daryl Reed. It sounded a lot like the guy that raised me. His name was Reed. This guy was Deputy Reed. He and I went to the academy together. And they promptly shot Daryl as he came past them. As soon as I fired my shotgun round, my last one, I grabbed the radio and said, "Suspects fled northbound the yellow pickup truck." I'm hammering, and within seconds of that broadcast, Daryl's on the radio saying he's been shot. They shot him as he was passing him, coming towards our location to help. Then the chase was on. Deputies are coming in from all over CHP. They're chasing these guys all over Muraloma, end up getting on the 15, chased them up into the mountains of Lytle Creek. In the meantime, Daryl pulled up in the middle of the street. Well, right before Daryl got there, about 4 narcs pulled up across the street behind me. Hammered the worldwide thoroughfare. So 4-lane, 5-lane, really. 2 north, 2 south, and a center turn lane. Well, these guys were on the curb across the street from me and behind me, and they're narcotics guys. They all had long hair and beards, and I knew them, and they knew me, but I'm still watching the van. I didn't think all the suspects got away, and I hear somebody calling my name. It's these narcs. They're running across the street with guns in their hands. They, Andy, Delgado, don't shoot us. We're the cops. So they come up to my car. They got me to the door with me, and I was telling them what was going on. And there was the van. I said, there's still suspects in the area. And then Daryl pulled up right in the middle of Hamner. In the number 1 lane, actually, it stopped just parallel to my car, a little bit north of me, actually. And I said, Daryl, I says, get out of the car. Get over here and bring your shotgun. And I said, hey, ammo. And he said, I can't, Andy. I've been shot. And I thought, oh, Jesus, because I knew what kind of guns this guy's had. And I looked at him and I said, where? And I had his bad thoughts in my head right away that he, was seriously injured, shot in his body somewhere, torso or something. So I was shot in the leg, and I looked at the scar on the side of the door, and I could see the bullet hole. And he was shot right below the left knee. And so I ran out in the middle of the street, grabbed him, and started to drag him out of the car to get him behind my car. And the nurse came up and helped me, and we drug him behind the car, gave him first aid. So we're all stationary. Nobody's moving on the van. Then all of a sudden, before that happened, we had to give Daryl some help. The narcs grabbed Daryl and they threw him in the back of his patrol car, and back out in the middle of the street, out in the open, which was a pretty brave thing to do for those guys. And they threw him in the back of the car and they drove across the intersection, because by that time there's a ton of emergency vehicles over there, police cars, lights all over the place, throwing the PD, what have you. And they drove him across an ambulance, and they threw him in an ambulance and took him to the hospital. So we're there. Then the van started to move. It started to roll backwards.
And Andy, going back to that incident, you're still there by yourself. Everybody else you could see the lights and siren, or is there more cops now with you getting ready to clear the van? Are you still there by yourself after the narcs take the wounded officer? Yeah.
Well, there was cops on the other side of the intersection behind all the traffic. They couldn't get up with their patrol cars. There were several. They're almost a football field back. Because it was at 3:30 in the afternoon. It's like a freeway with stoplights. Everybody's on that road.
And you're there alone?
Alone. Well, I got the narcs there with me now. I got like 4 policemen there, 4 deputy sheriffs. They're undercover guys. So we're there, and I'm telling them, there's some very heavily armed guys here. I don't think they all escaped. And so the van started to move, and then I jumped up over the door. Now at this point, I had Daryl's shotgun and his ammunition, and all of a sudden it stopped again. I didn't start shooting again, and then there was a person popped into the passenger window of that van. And he's shouting. I really couldn't hear what he was saying. And he had his hands behind his back. And I thought some brave copper ran up there, hooked that guy up, that he was a suspect, and then ran back to cover. And now the guy's in the van trying to get out, and he's yelling. So I'm yelling at him to get out of that van and to come to me. Well, he did. He took a header. He dove out head first, and he landed on the ground. And I could see that he wasn't handcuffed. He was tied up. His hands were taped behind his back, and his legs were taped together from the ankle to the knee. And so he's hog-tied there with tape, with like athletic tape, white tape. And then he rolled across the intersection, into the middle of the intersection. And somebody finally from the other side, some cops came over and grabbed him and drug him back to where they were at. And so we're watching. And then by that time, more cops are at the scene. And they secured the van, and somebody, Billy Delgado, was dead behind the wheel. Somebody handcuffed him. And then the Riverside police helicopter showed up. Costa Mesa police showed up with their helicopter. Apparently they were on their way back to Costa Mesa from the San Bernardino Sheriff's Academy, and they were on scene, and they were orbiting. Riverside PD was orbiting. Cops all over the place, and dead suspect there, holy shit. And I'm trying to get my wits about me, and I'm leaning against a car, a detective car that at this point was parked like about 4 feet from the driver's door of the suspect vehicle. So I was leaning there, and I could see the dead suspect. But I couldn't see his face, but I could see that he was a Mexican. He was a Latino. And like a couple of days before that, we had a bank robbery in Rubidoux that intelligence said it was via the Mexican mafia. And we were thinking these were the same guys. And I said, great. So at that point, I was very well convinced that I just killed this guy. And so now I got in the middle of this thing, and guys are shot, Reed's shot, Velasquez shot. I thought Velasquez was seriously injured. Reed's been shot, and the suspect, and then the mafia. So in addition to dealing with that, we're going to have to deal with those guys later on. I'm thinking a lot of different things. And Hill comes back, the guy I was drinking coffee with. He comes back to the scene. I'm just standing there, and there's cops all over the street. Deputy chiefs were there, captains, everybody was there.
Was any federal agencies there? Was FBI, ATF, everybody? Because it was an 11. It came out 1199, right?
I'm standing there. Yeah. Well, I'm standing there, and Hill comes up to me and says, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah." And I'm like, I'm fixed on this dead suspect, and he looked at me and said, "Andy," says, "how many shots did you get off? How many rounds did you get off?" I said, 10. I fired all my shotgun ammo. Okay. I said, "How many did you get off?" Because I thought he was engaged over there on the other side. Because we were kitty corner. There was a feed store between him and me. He was on 4th. I was on Hamner, 90-degree angles there, and he was behind there. So I thought he was getting it on with those guys from over there. And in that process, he rescues Velasquez. Out they go. Well, to my surprise, he says, "None." He says, "What do you mean none?" He goes, I never saw the suspect. And I said, and this is what I said to him, I go, "How the fuck did you not see the suspects? They're standing right there in the open, shooting the whole time. 6 car lengths from me." And I just shook my head, and I looked at him, and I pointed my finger at him, and I said, "Chuck, I think you left me here." I said, "I think you left me here. You and Velasquez. How's Velasquez doing?" "He's going to make it, man. He's going to be okay." "Okay, great." And I didn't talk to him again after that. Then while I'm standing there, Sergeant comes up to me, and I'm across the street from the bank on the corner, like I said, by the suspect vehicle. Sergeant taps me on the shoulder and goes, "You see, there's 4 men standing on the corner in front of the bank. They're all wearing suits because they're FBI. They want to talk to you." I said, "Okay, let's go talk to them." I go over there, and these 4 men, they identify themselves as FBI, and they take me into the bank, into an office in the bank, and interview me. And they told me that they asked me if I got a good look at these guys. I said, "Well, they all had masks on. I saw them clear as day, but I certainly couldn't tell you. I couldn't identify the lineup because I didn't see their faces." And they said, "Well, we think these guys are of the stopwatch gang. 6 men from San Diego that were doing takeover bank robberies. And they've done a series of them. They had them all identified. He thinks that these were the guys, and that they had them under surveillance. They had followed them from San Diego to the Riverside area and lost them." And I said, "You followed these 6 bank robbers to Riverside, to this area, and you lost them." I says, "I don't remember anybody telling us about that. I don't remember anybody telling us be on the lookout for whatever car, heavily armed men that have been robbing banks that are now in our area, and you don't know where they're at anymore. You had them under observation, but now you don't. You never told us that." So I was pretty upset with them because I thought, well, shit, these must be the guys. These FBI guys followed them up there. And I got up and I walked out. So that was pretty much the end of my participation in that robbery. Meanwhile, the suspects are running around. Cops are coming up on them, running up behind them. They're getting shot. Full of
Hey, Andy.
Getting wounded. Yeah.
Andy, we're going to stop the show now. The reason why, because you're coming back next week. We're going to pick up next week, if it's okay with you. And I just checked with Doug and Bobby. They're both okay with it. Let me get you off of the main screen. We're going to have you come back next week so we could talk more about the FBI, what they did and did not share. Tom, we'll start off with the incident. I mean, now we have all the bullets, everything is there. But we're going to pick up, before we go there next week, we're going to pick up on the pursuit. We're going to pick up on the pursuit, on what happened on the mountain, them being placed under arrest. So we're going to pick that up next week, if it's okay with you. Are you okay with that?
I am. I would want to let one more comment about
Yes.
that stopwatch gang. The very next day, on the front page of the LA Times, there were 6 pictures of 6 bank robbery suspects identified by the FBI as a stopwatch gang, and identified as the men that did that robbery in Norco.
They were the stopwatch gang? They were the stopwatch gang?
No.
No. Oh.
The FBI gave up the stopwatch. Now all of a sudden the stopwatch gang, the FBI's been watching us. They know who we are, and their pictures were on the front page of the LA Times.
Wow.
And identified as the guys who just did that robbery in Norco.
Well, at least it wasn't a picture of Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
Anyway, cheers. Next week's fine with me, guys.
Yeah.
Hey,
Andy, man, go ahead, Bobby. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, Andy, how many rounds were fired by the suspects at your scene in front of the bank? Do you know?
Well, Velasquez's car took like 163 hits. Okay.
Wow.
And my car took, I'm not really sure, but it was at least 20 rounds. Okay. They blew up the side view mirror. They blew out the window, at least one of the windows on the passenger side because the angle that I was at.
Yeah.
Put a couple rounds into the hood, into the grill of the patrol car. They shot a couple of rounds, at least 3 or 4 went through the dashboard of my into my seat, but I was outside of the car, of course. But yeah, a lot of rounds. There was probably, I would say, when you look at how many rounds that Velasquez took and how many that I know they were shooting at me actively, I'd say in excess of 200 rounds was fired at that scene by the suspects. And 20 rounds, 20 rounds were fired by 10 by me, 10 by Velasquez.
So it'd be easy to say that at you personally, when you were there alone, probably in excess of 100, 120 rounds were fired, and you're armed with only 18 38 rounds and 10 shotgun rounds.
That's yeah.
It's crazy.
Right.
So the reason I said that is because I think next week I'd like to also explore how this kind of changed law enforcement on how we were armed and all that kind of stuff afterwards.
It has significant impact on future law enforcement as far as how cops are trained and how they're armed.
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah.
And I think Benny says it in a nutshell. Norco was old school for what was to come. The North Hollywood shootout. After Norco, we learned nothing. Well, we learned a lot, but they didn't make any changes. We were all still on for incidents, just as North Hollywood. Yes, go ahead.
Well, we didn't have automatic weapons. We weren't carrying 9mm. Mm-hmm. We weren't carrying ARs or whatever. But we did do the first thing the sheriff did was arm the sergeants with mini 14s.
Yeah. And
then they would designated after that somebody in each beat with a mini 14. But the way it really ended up evolving, though, we went from and we were only allowed to carry one gun.
Yeah,
we couldn't carry a backup pistol or nothing like that. We were only allowed to carry our sidearm. That's it. Everybody else could carry backup guns. And like I said, my the guy that raised me, he was LA sheriff, and he said, "Well, where was your backup gun?" I said, "We weren't allowed to carry backup guns."
You were not allowed to carry. You're not allowed.
You get in trouble. You get suspended.
Really?
Defense.
Oh my
God. Yeah, you were allowed to carry one gun.
Wow.
Well, after that, we could carry all the guns we wanted, but only one could be visible. Okay. And then they started putting ARs in all the cars, and then they created a SWAT team. We never had a SWAT team. now Riverside Sheriff has the third largest SWAT team in the state, and they're a SWAT team training department. Matter of fact, a lot of San Diego PD guys go up to Riverside for SWAT training. Gary Collins, I don't know if Bobby, if you know Gary Collins. Gary Collins, he was on San Diego PD. He's a SWAT guy. He and I were neighbors. Yeah, so he's long since retired, but he went to the SWAT training at Riverside Sheriff's Department, and then we had like a third largest SWAT team, automatics, assault rifles in the cars, dogs. They have dogs, got dogs. So the Sheriff's Department, Bruce County anyway, we were surrounded by everybody that had all that stuff already, and now Riverside it's amazing. It's like Dodge City when Norco happened.
What year did the Hollywood shooting happen?
Oh, I don't remember.
Was it like 92, 93? The Hollywood shooting, Andy, 92, 93? I think it froze up on us. We'll come back on.
Yeah, because we didn't switch over to the semi-autos at Phoenix PD. I was in Narcs, and I think it was probably 87, probably 88. 88 when we switched over, and we were able to transition. So I gave up. I had we were carrying 38s, and then I was carrying a 357. And then we switched over to the 9mm we switched over to.
Yeah, I think San Diego PD, we didn't go to semi-autos until like 1990. And then we didn't get the
Norco Bank?
Yeah, Norco. What year was it, Andy? Norco robbery.
May
97?
May 9th, 1980.
Well,
Oh,
okay.
19. No, the Norco. Not Norco. I'm sorry, the
Hollywood.
LA, the Hollywood.
And that was like 91, 92, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the 90s.
Says, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah. Hey, Andy, once again, brother, thank you. Thank you very much, brother, for being on. We're going to continue next week. But before we leave, Doug, any last words for Andy? We're going to have him next week, man. Can't wait.
Hey, Andy, really looking forward to following up with you on this. Appreciate you telling us the story. I think that the way you acted on the scene out there was heroic. I mean,
most definitely.
You never know how you're going to respond to those types of things, but I truly believe that what you did was a heroic act, and thank you very much for your service.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you for saying that. And, it's about survival and watching out for the other guys that I worked with. And I wish there's some things we could have done differently, but we didn't. That's reality. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad more guys weren't killed. And I'm proud to have done what I've done. And I'll tell you something else. I'm proud to know guys like you, David, especially you.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, brother.
Bobby, any last words for Andy? We have him next week.
It was interesting. It's awesome to have heard this story when I was in the police academy, to actually meet the person that was one of the people involved. Yeah, because that was something that they talked to us about.
Yes, they did.
And I think they showed us some of the newspaper clippings and everything else. And one never knows how they're going to react in a situation like that. You're in there in a fight for your life, and you had somebody else never squeezed off around. You never know. You never know how people are going to react.
Well, I feel that, like I said, we had the same training as LAPD, the same training and the same equipment as San Diego PD. Yeah. I think the San Diego had revolvers back then.
Oh yeah,
12-gauge shotgun.
Yes, we did.
And same everything, just that the bad guys had evolved.
Right.
They were Saturday Night Specials. What's that? It was they had evolved to what they are to this day, and our department was a little bit slow on that. So I don't have anything bad to say about the sheriff's department. I think they trained me well. There's some people in the sheriff's department I'm not happy with, but we were well trained. We had the same equipment as LAPD as far as patrol guys, or San Diego, or Phoenix, what have you. It was just the luck of the draw, man, that day for us. But I'm proud to have served who I served. I think we were a good department. I think they're a great department right now, and they figured it out. Took them a little while, but they figured it out after that robbery that we couldn't do business as usual, right. And we had to be prepared for those type of eventualities so that we could survive, and serve the public. But, yeah.
Hey, Andy, once again, brother, thank you from all our heart, man. You're a legend. You're a hero. Thank you, brother. But we'll see you next week. And you know what? Next week, I'm going to go in my garage. I'm going to fire me up a good cigar. So I'm going to join you and Bobby.
If I'm all that hero shit, man, send me a cigar, will you?
I will. I will. Hey, Andy, we'll see you next week, brother. God bless you, man.
All right, guys.
Talk to you later. All right. Man, we talk about heroes, we talk about legends, and you know what? Like we said, Bobby, we've said it before. You know what? That's why this show was created, for men like him. He has, I believe, 2 grandchildren now. And you know what? They're going to see this 10, 20 years from now. And this story will never be forgotten. Man, what a story, huh? And the way he was saying it, I mean, with still, after so many years, I mean, it was so vivid. You could see it in his face. You could see it in his mind, and beautiful, beautiful.
Well, most of us always think that if something, people always ask, working as a cop, working in a lot of the high-risk assignments that all of us worked, and then I worked overseas. There was not a cakewalk overseas when I did some of the assignments, and people say, were you ever afraid? It's a fear that doesn't control you. It's something that's in the back of your mind, but I think you convince yourself that if something bad's going to happen, it's going to happen to somebody else. It ain't happening to me. But then he gets in a situation where literally he's fighting for his life. They could have jumped out and tried to finish him off when they drove by him. And he had to make a decision that, you know what, I'm going to have to take one with me, but I'm not going to let them execute me. So that was pretty intense to hear that.
It says something also when he was telling us a story when he realized he was there alone.
Right.
Exactly, man.
And he was still in the fight. And then even after the 4 guys initially got away, he was convinced there were still more suspects there in that van or in the area, that he had the forethought to let the responding officers know, hey, I don't think they're all gone yet. So don't just approach. You still got to come in like you're supposed to be coming in. And until we clear out this van. I mean, so he's still thinking tactically, even though he's just been, his car shot to shit. And he's got a buddy that he knows is in the hospital, and he thinks he's got another dead deputy down the road. I mean, you turn off all those emotions and you just go back to work. And it says something about his training.
And Doug, after the incident, after these guys leave, the van moves and crashes. And then a guy who's tied up, who's basically a hostage, jumps out. Anybody else would have shot at him. You know what I mean? Your adrenaline's pumping. But for him to have that discipline, and it was a victim who was actually kidnapped by these guys. It was in the back of the van. I read the book, so I know the whole story. But he'll talk about it next week. But guys, I'm looking forward to part 2. It's going to be an outstanding part 2, he'll talk about next week about the helicopter. They actually shot down a helicopter, but the helicopter, I believe, crashed, but nobody died. But they shot down a helicopter. They fired hundreds, thousands of more rounds. They got into a shootout at a location. He'll talk about it, and then he'll talk about the demise of one of our own. I can't wait for next week. But guys, before I forget, next Tuesday on the Gray Line, we have John Bailey. He's going to be on our show next week, and he's going to be talking about the murder of a San Diego police officer. I believe it was early 83, 82. He'll talk about it. We'll show some videos about it, who was murdered by a deputy's son who stole his father's car and drove to where the police officer was parked and shot him with a 357 Magnum. But he's going to be talking about that. That's on Tuesday. The show is now at 6:00 on Tuesday. And then next Wednesday at 5:00, we have part 2 with Andy. I cannot wait. Guys, with that said, Bobby, any last words?
No, looking forward to next week, and thank everyone for stopping by. As always.
Amen. Big Doug?
The only thing I'm going to say is I I got a text message from Chris Kilby saying that he wasn't able to get on live on the chat, so I'll save it for him. But make sure you do your buddy checks.
That's right, buddy checks. And guys, and I'm going to quote Bobby. I always quote you, Bobby, on our show. You know what? Trust the process and trust the author. And the author is Jesus Christ. No matter what you're going through, it's a process. It's a healing process. If it's PTSD, no matter what, if somebody's sick, somebody has cancer and so forth, trust the process. But above and beyond, like you say, Bobby, trust the author. We'll see you next week. God bless you. We'll see you next Tuesday at 6 o'clock, Wednesday at 5.
Good night, guys.
No hay método escrito, a mi modo he cometido errores, pero de ellos aprendí poquito, he aprendido a llorar en la vida y también a gozarla bonito. A mi modo he llevado la vida, así pienso seguirla llevando. A mi modo